Welcome to the 14-day sleep training plan by Golden Slumbers. This plan involves consistency, patience, and a bit of well-timed comfort, all aimed at helping your little one learn to self-soothe and sleep soundly. However, before we start, you must remember 3 things. Firstly, your baby needs to be at least 5 months to start sleep training. Secondly, you need to understand wake windows and make sure your baby is napping properly during the day. And finally, you should not start sleep training if your baby is ill. It won't work, and baby needs your full attention during illness. If you need more information on wake windows and when to start sleep training, we have 2 specific videos on these topics, and as always, are happy to answer any questions you have in the comments. It all starts with a calming bedtime routine. The key here is consistency, as it forms the backbone of a successful bedtime routine, signaling to your little one that it's time to wind down and prepare for sleep. You may start by drawing a warm bath for your baby. Next, you quietly help your baby into their soft, cozy pajamas. Now it's time for a quiet feed. This not only helps to ensure your baby won't wake up hungry in the middle of the night, but also provides a moment of closeness between you two. Following the feed, how about a short story or a lullaby? The sound of your voice, whether it's narrating an enchanting fairy tale or singing a soothing song, can aid in lulling your baby to sleep. Remember, the goal here isn't to entertain or stimulate, but rather to create a peaceful atmosphere that encourages sleep. Lastly, ensure the sleep environment is conducive. A dark, cool room can foster better sleep. If your baby seems to respond well, consider adding white noise into the mix. The steady hum can help drown out any potential disturbances, further promoting uninterrupted sleep. As you wrap up the routine, gently place your baby in their crib, kiss them goodnight, and then leave the room. Remember, the aim is to teach your baby to fall asleep independently, so it's essential you allow them this opportunity. You should not be putting your baby down asleep. If you do this, then you increase the likelihood of what is called a false start. This is where your baby wakes up around 30 to 40 minutes after initially going to sleep. You then have to go through the whole process over again, so you should be aiming to put them down drowsy but awake. If your baby settles better with a dummy or pacifier, then use that. But if they spit it out during the night, you should not replace it, as this is contrary to the principle of self-soothing. Let's focus on the sleep environment a bit more. The room should be dark, as it aids the production of melatonin, the sleep hormone. The temperature should be cool, ideally between 65 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 to 21 degrees Celsius. If the room is too warm, it can make your baby restless. Some parents get hung up over the exact room temperature, but don't let it become an obsession. If it's 1 or 2 degrees out, that's fine. As we mentioned already, if your baby is comforted by noise, consider using white noise. This can be a dedicated machine, an app on your phone, or even a fan. Now onto a very important part of the plan. This is known as the Popin or check-in technique. Call it what you will, but this, dear friends, is not your typical pop-in for tea and biscuits. This is a method designed to comfort your little one without the need to pick them up. It's about reassurance, not rescue. This is different from the so-called cry it out method and has been proven time and again to be effective and safe. Some people still don't like it and say that it harms parents' emotional attachment to their babies. Here at Golden Slumbers, we don't agree, but encourage you to read as much as you can about the topic to reassure yourself that you are doing the right thing. The purpose of these pop-ins is not to stop the crying immediately, but rather to let your baby know they're not alone. It's about building their confidence in their own ability to self-soothe and fall back asleep independently. When your baby wakes up and starts crying, you wait for a set amount of time before checking in. This interval will progressively increase over the nights. During each check-in, you gently comfort your baby with kind words and gentle pats, but avoid picking them up or feeding them. It may seem counterintuitive, but it's important to resist the urge to scoop them up into your arms. So now you know the basics. The next part of my video will go through each part of the 14-night plan. The first 3 nights are critical. As we embark on this journey, we start gentle but firm. The first pop-in should occur after 5 minutes of your baby crying. It's absolutely crucial not to pick them up or feed them during these pop-ins. Instead, offer gentle words, a soft pat, a touch that reassures them of your presence, but also encourages them to find their own path to slumber. After the initial 5 minutes, The next pop-in will be after 10 minutes. We are gradually increasing the intervals here, my dears. Following the 10-minute interval, we increase the time between pop-ins by 5 minutes each time. We cap it at 15 minutes for these first 3 nights. So your pop-in schedule for these initial nights will look something like this: 5 minutes, then 10, then 15. During these check-ins, keep your interactions minimal, a whisper of comfort, a gentle pat on the back, but nothing more. These initial nights lay the groundwork for the rest of the plan. Before we move on to nights 4 to 7, let's briefly discuss night feeds. Some babies will still require feeding in the night at this point. If that is the case, try and limit the feeds as much as possible to 1 a night and at a similar time each night. You can then wean them off night feeds at a later date. The key is not to use feeding as a settling technique. And if your baby sleeps through without them, certainly do not reintroduce them at this stage, provided they are not ill. Remember the basic principle that if you do feed them, they should be awake when you put them back down. Your baby should not be falling asleep mid-feed. For bottle-fed babies, it is easier to monitor the amount they eat, so they are more likely to not require a night feed. Either way, as they get older and their tummies hold more food, the need for night feeding reduces and weaning off becomes much easier. As we progress to nights 4 to 7, the pop-in intervals will change. This subtle shift is a vital part of the sleep training process, designed to help your little one gradually build the ability to self-soothe. During these nights, you'll initiate the first pop-in after your baby has been crying for 10 minutes. After the initial 10-minute interval, you'll increase the time between each subsequent pop-in by 5 minutes. So after the first pop-in, you'll wait for 15 minutes before the next one, then 20 minutes for the one after that. The maximum interval during these nights should not exceed 20 minutes. At all times, you should monitor your baby for signs of discomfort or illness. Check the room temperature and that they are comfortable in their crib, sleeping bag, or swaddle. If they're unwell or teething, it might be necessary to pause the sleep training temporarily. Above all, stay patient. Your baby is gradually learning to self-soothe. On to nights 8 to 11. Now, as we move forward in our sleep training journey, we are going to make some slight adjustments in our pop-in intervals. During nights 8 to 11, we will start our pop-ins after 15 minutes of crying. Remember, it's part of the process and it's not easy for either of you. After the initial 15 minutes, we will increase our pop-in intervals by 10 minutes. That means your second pop-in will be at 25 minutes and the third at 35 minutes and so on. However, don't let the intervals extend beyond 25 minutes. We don't want to leave your little one in distress for too long. During each pop-in, soothe your baby with your calming presence, gentle words, and comforting pats. You're nearing the finish line. Keep going. Finally, nights 12 to 14. This is where all your consistency and patience begins to pay off in earnest. Here's the plan for these last 3 nights. When your little one wakes up and begins to cry, you'll now start the first check-in after 20 minutes. Yes, that's right, 20 minutes. This might feel like a long time, but remember, this is part of helping your baby learn to self-soothe and sleep independently. After your initial pop-in, you'll increase the intervals by 10 minutes for each subsequent pop-in. This means the second pop-in will be after 30 minutes and so on. However, we're putting a cap on this, a maximum interval of 30 minutes between pop-ins. So if your baby's still unsettled after 2 pop-ins, you'll continue to check on them every 30 minutes as needed. Keep in mind, while we're aiming for progress, it's not a race against the clock. Every baby is unique and will adapt to this new routine at their own pace. If you feel your baby is not ready for these extended intervals, it's absolutely fine to adjust the plan according to their response and your comfort level. And that's it, a 14-night sleep training plan, a fortnight of gentle guidance to help your baby learn to self-soothe and sleep soundly. Remember, keep the routine the same every night, from the calming bedtime rituals to the comforting pop-ins. Whilst some tears will be shed in this learning process, your reassuring presence during pop-ins will help your baby feel safe and loved. Good luck and happy sleep training, my lovelies. Finally, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and leave comments or questions you may have.